Hello, today I would like to react to another Season 8 hater. This is the second video I'm doing in English, so please bear with me if I fuck up some words, if my grammar is not as well as it should have been, but the message matters. Now I'm gonna react to a video by Degrees Goblin, who very rarely when it comes to Season 8 haters, make the effort to actually engage with a Season 8 lover in a discussion, or at least a Season 8 fan on some level. It was kind of unfair. It was a 2 versus 1 scenario by the end of the day, so it wasn't a fair competition. But at least Grease Goblin and his friend, I don't remember his name right now, they were open for a debate to face someone who doesn't think like they do and who has a different opinion on Season 8. A more favorable opinion and stance on it. And today I would like to react to his video. What's this called again? I have to bring it up. Yeah, Season 8, a complete disaster. This is how the video is called. Who has a better story? Yeah.
Than Bran the Broken.
Yeah, the opening is typical. It's the hater resigning to the fact that Tyrion is not talking about him or to him. He's not asking the viewer what he thinks who the best story has. He's talking about the character who has the best story to unite the realm again.
My queen, I don't want it. My queen, I don't want it. No.
Washed in bed riding, the Star Wars washed in bed riding. I can do it as well, even with more words than you.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine. And you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never.
That's my point. In the video, he's now drinking alcohol under a shower. He's depressed. So this is how powerful Season 8 was. It still lives rent-free in your head 7 years later and counting. And you still have to make videos to profit of the hate that Season 8 still receives up to this day. That's how poor and sad you are. Instead of trying to understand the ending and to appreciate it, by approaching the story and the characters in good faith, you continue to make stupid and poor memes about it. It's your choice, just like Brian said, but it's a poor choice.
So much death. What can men do against such reckless hate?
When you play the
I hope he will make some points that I can actually counter and not just this infantile meme celebrating.
Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Oh boy, it's time to start the Season 8 retrospective, and I don't even know where to begin.
I wonder how much his perspective will change. I wonder how much he's able to actually self-reflect and to look upon things differently, to change his opinion, to change his stance on things. I won't get my hopes up, but perhaps there's a silver lining. Maybe he's actually doing better because, like I said, he did do a discussion with a Season 8 fan last year. That's more than what 99.9% of other Season 8 haters could proclaim. But yeah, let's hear what he has to say.
With this video, because there's just so much bad to talk about. There's so much that just doesn't make sense in the season that it's almost overwhelming of where to start. Whereas like other videos for Season 5 and 6, I would break it down into the different characters, or Season 7, there was only a couple plots, so you could kind of stick to breaking down one of those plots. But with Season 8, it basically has the structure of 2 different arcs. You have the first arc, which is the long night, or the short night, I guess I should say, against the Night King, and then you also have this
At least he's aware of the fact of the structure of the season and he's able to make admissions. Yeah, there are only two major plot lines going on in season 8. And each of them receives proper care and handle and screen time to tell it. More than what each individual storyline would have received in the earlier seasons, because you had too much characters and different storylines all going on at the same time who had to share the very limited screen time. Season 8 is the only season. Also season 7, because season 7 also only has like maybe 3 major storylines if we count also Fion's quest. Because Fion's quest is also in season 8, but it's only done in one episode. It's already done in the first episode, and in season 7, Fion's arc is at least the entire season long. So at least he's able to admit that. He's able to see facts. Of course, he's still judging. He's still coming to wrong conclusions. Yeah, short night. Despite the long night being the longest Thrones episode, despite the long night being the longest Thrones battle in the entire series, despite the long night being the longest battle episode as well, despite it having the most named character deaths out of any Game of Thrones battle, it's still too short, it's still not enough. But even if the maximum isn't enough, like what's supposed to please you? The story wasn't about the White Walkers. They were not supposed to be the climax. Get over it.
arc, which fulfills like the back half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a general breakdown of the events that happen in the season, and then break into each individual character.
I bet it will be completely free from any ridiculous talking points or sarcasm or irony or anything. I think it will be totally fair.
I think that'll work better because with these characters, this is their final ending. So we need to talk about, does their ending satisfy both the...
That phrase is also very, unnecessary. It's the ending. There's only one ending. Why do you feel the need to call it final ending? There's only one ending. There's a finale of the story and there's an ending. Synonyms. They mean the same. It's like people who are saying the main protagonist. Protagonist already means main character. It's a synonym. It means the same thing. So if you say main protagonist, you actually say the main character. Just like he now said the final ending. There's only one ending. And finale is just a different word for it.
Audience, the character writing, and just continuity overall with the series. Is it a fitting end? So there's a lot...
It is. Coast Clays, you can stop the video now.
...to break down. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, liking, all that kind of stuff. And let's dive into the horrifying season that is Season 8. Starting with the first arc of the season, we spend a lot of time in the first 2 episodes of the 6-episode season building up towards the threat of the Night King. And this is obvious because we've been setting this up really for 8 seasons now, or at least previous to season 8, 7 seasons of the threat of the White Walkers. And so I think early on in the first 2 episodes, the strength of those episodes is the idea of when we're focusing on this impending doom, that many of our characters should die. This is the fight for the living. It should take everything to overcome it. When the show focuses on elements like that, where you have characters like John, Sam, and Ed talking about the upcoming threat, or you have Beric the Hound and Arya having like a reunion and thinking about that coming doom, or you even have some of our characters just simply around a campfire, talking about certain things. And even one of the best scenes, and I'd say the best scene of season 8, one of the only redeeming qualities...
Oh, let me guess. Oh, season 8 was so predictable. Like, how can you be so predictable? Brienne's knighting scene. Or maybe, but that's close runner-up. It's usually the only scene they are giving in, they are admitting to praise its quality is Brienne's knighting. Because it's in no conflict with any popular fan theories or whatsoever, because Brienne is not a major character. She's big, don't get me wrong, but she's no Jon, she's no Daenerys, she's no Tyrion, no Sansa, no Arya, no Cersei, Jaime, or Tyrion, or even Bran. She's slightly below that. So people naturally can't get as insulted or disappointed when her storyline doesn't go the way they thought it would go. Because really, up to season 8, leading up to season 8, there were no fan theories concerning or talking about Brienne's fate, her storyline. None. The most she got, of course, she was part of death predictions for big battles, namely the battle for Winterfell. That's it. She's part of death predictions. But her storyline, her character, no one. There weren't even like predictions that were talking about her becoming a knight or Jaime knighting her in the season. You know, like giving her the honor to fulfill her biggest live stream. No one predicted that. No one talked about it. If you look back, if you Google every article, every video about how will Game of Thrones end, every prediction video, and also every like fake plot leak video where fan fiction got disguised as real events. Even they don't really cover Brienne at all, because she's not that big of a character. Because there are already so much more characters that are more beloved, that are bigger, and that clearly overshadow her. That's one thing. The other thing is, of course, ideologically based. It's worldview confirming for left progressive people, a woman who was suppressed by patriarchy for the entire series, her entire life, who, because of norms and traditions, couldn't become a knight, becomes a knight, and not only that, also a man does her the honor to knight her. He fulfills her dream. It's a beautiful scene, it's a beautiful story. It's also likely in my top 50 moments in or of season 8, but it's not even remotely near the top. It's maybe like 49, 38, or maybe exactly on place 50 of the best moments for me, but doesn't rank much higher. It's beautiful, it's great. Music works, the acting is good. It comes full circle, it works, it's great, it's an awesome scene. But in comparison to all the other greatness season 8 has to offer, it just goes down. But now I talk so much about Brienne. Maybe he's naming another scene. He's not naming Brienne. Maybe my entire, because I'm live reacting to this video, I haven't seen it before. And maybe he's now naming in a completely different scene, and I just made a fool of myself. Not really a fool, because what I said is still correct. Even he himself is now not naming Brienne. Maybe he's breaking the order. Maybe he's using something else as a praisable example of season 8. And if he does, I predict it's only something from the first 2 episodes, because those are the episodes that get the least flagged. Those are the episodes that you are allowed to praise online, because they don't move the plot that much along. There's not that much insulting fan theory, fan prediction, and fan interpretation destroying going on in those 2 episodes.
Of it is when Brienne is knighted by Jaime. A lot of
what did I say? Of course it's Brienne's knighting. Oh, so predictable. I was right. Thanks for the confirmation.
That stuff is great. This idea that this is going to be our last moments, the calm before the storm. A lot of that is really well done, I think, in the first 2 episodes. What's not...
Did I mention the runner-up? If it wasn't for Brienne, he probably would have taken Podrick singing.
Well done in the first 2 episodes is pretty much everything else. The characters don't make a lot of sense, and I'll break into those characters as we
get now he's showing the Sansa and Daenerys scene. Of course, the Daenerys worshippers hate this scene, because Sansa is daring to question Daenerys' morality and her intentions, and they can't allow that. They don't like that. Very, very... this video, it's already so predictable. Like, holy shit. How predictable can you be? I love it.
each individual one. But for example, Sansa and Daenerys' conflict doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's very artificial and only makes sense if you had read the script of what's going to happen in the future. And overall, just the drama that's...
This is basically just him admitting that he won't be open to accept this scene for what it is in the moment. He already needs to know, like, he needs to be secure that he knows where everything is going, that his interpretation is wrong. He needs to know what this scene is leading to, and even more importantly, that he will like the end result. Because if he doesn't have that security, he's already rejecting the scene. He doesn't like where it's going because he's afraid. What is this scene proposing? That Daenerys is not a great leader. Quite the opposite. That she is dangerous. And she's not as good as she seems. And only another woman. Women understand women better than men. Just saying, another woman saw through it. And you don't like that worldview, your interpretation of Daenerys being shattered by that. That's subjective story rating. That's how you judge subjectively a story. Do I like it or not? And if I don't like it, it's bad. That's not objective story judging. That's not how you judge objectively a story. Objectively, you judge, does it make sense for Sansa to act this way? Yes. Does it make sense for Daenerys to act this way? Yes. Does it make sense that these two are coming into this room in the first place? Thanks to Jorah? Yes, it does. Of course he's not talking about that. Now he's only judging the story by his feelings, who were insulted and disappointed, and his expectations that were let down, but not by, does the story actually make sense? Is it earned? Does it make sense for these characters that we have been introduced and established to for 7 seasons now? It does, but he doesn't care about that. Because he can't judge a story objectively, only subjectively. Even 7 years later, he can't do it.
Trying to be built up in those first 2 episodes just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, for instance, we see Varys, Tyrion throughout the season talking about Daenerys as a ruler and her relationship with Jon. A lot of that stuff is just so artificial and to me doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And so when the episode...
For example, what does artificial mean? I don't understand it. Why is it artificial? Why are those characters Varys, who puts the realm at first, before himself, before everyone else, the well-being of the people, he puts it first. Why is it artificial that he is talking about Tyrion to prevent a slaughter, a mass murder? Why is this artificial? Why is it artificial that Sansa, who cares more about the North and the well-being of North's people more than anything else, why is this artificial that she is questioning Daenerys, who has already her ancestors, and not only 100 years, 300 years ago with Torrhen's Stark, but really, if we look at it like the Mad King, his death, what he did to the Starks, to Sansa's family, is only like 20 till 25 years ago from this point in the story. It's not that long ago. It's recent history. It's still fresh. The wounds are still there. Like, what is artificial about it? It's not artificial. You just don't like Daenerys being questioned and exposed. That's it. That's your issue. But you can't admit that, because Season 8 haters can't self-reflect, they can't admit faults, they can't admit mistakes. They are unable to learn, because they understood the story better than everyone else, and if they don't get the story that they understood, the actual story failed them.
Focus on that dynamic, what Daenerys' role will be in and how she's being viewed in the North. All of that stuff, in my opinion, is just very artificial and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I just think,
after being told how distrusting or mistrusting the North is of outsiders for the entire series, for 8 seasons, but this guy, it's not enough. Like, he needs so much spoon feeding, he needs another 8 seasons, he needs 16 seasons to get it. And I guess even then he would say it's not enough. It's not enough episodes, not enough seasons. It's too artificial, it doesn't make sense. It's bad writing, it's rushed. It's complete nonsense. Like, how can you like take these people seriously? I don't get it.
Just in general, a lot of the characters in the first 2 episodes just don't make a whole lot of sense. Now, some of them...
Man, I have to include a counter how many times he says this makes no sense. How many times? We are just episode 1 and 2. And those are the golden childs for season 8 haters. That's the only episodes that get minimum flag. But they still get flag, of course. But much less than episode 3 to 6.
There are some nice moments between characters like Theon and Sansa's reunion after Theon has somehow saved Asha from Euron's fleet. He just waltzed in and saved her. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I do like the idea that Theon, instead of going with his sister, he is going...
Yeah, this is something that I also learned from season 8 haters. They like a lot of ideas. They love ideas, but they don't love executions. They don't like ideas being put into fruition, put into motion. They don't like that. They only like ideas. Idealists. Oh, wouldn't it be a great idea? But actually doing it, no, it doesn't work.
To come and fight for the living. He's going to defend Winterfell, which could be perceived as his home. He did grow up here after the Greyjoy Rebellion. He spent a lot of his formidable years at Winterfell, also protecting, Sansa and even Bran. So...
of course he's praising Theon's storyline because, Theon had the typical traditional redemption arc in stories, just like the Hounds, just like Melisandre, those 3 were the only characters that received pretty safe established storytelling methods. And it's also fine, because they worked. But it doesn't mean, just because they received that treatment, that every other character in the story has to have the same kind of ending, the same kind of final message or say about who they are and what they do. No diversity in storytelling. No, haters, they want everything to be the same. Everything working from the same formula all the time. What 100 or 1,000 stories have already told over hundreds of years. They don't want brave, innovative storytelling. They don't want that.
I think there's some good stuff here and there. With the first 2 episodes of season 8, it has more to do with some of the reunions that are done well in this season, that for some reason in season 7, they really did a bad job of a lot of the reunions. So a lot of that stuff works, but there is just...
Again, a baseless claim without any examples.
A lot of bad. There's a lot of bad dialogue.
Oh, how many times does he say bad? How many times does he say it doesn't make sense? These people are so limited, not only in their thinking, but also in their vocabulary, how they can express themselves. I'm not even a native English speaker, and I'm probably more fluid in expressing my thoughts than this guy is. How pathetic is this? I can't fathom it. It's wow.
A lot of bad conversations. There's a lot of things that don't really go anywhere. And that, to me, is really what defines the first 2 episodes. There are hints of good in there with the upcoming threat of the White Walkers, but there's a lot of just bland stuff in here that feels like it's been written by, a couple high school writing students. And so as we get to episode 3, this was, the big moment. They had to stick the landing. The first scene of Game of Thrones is about the White Walkers and that threat. We've been building up to it with Jon's storyline for 7 seasons. You had to nail this battle. And the hype that it was getting, that it was going to be as good as Helm's Deep from the 2
the biggest red herring in entertainment history.
Towers, Lord of the Rings movie, it was being hyped to new levels. And as the episode dropped, it became quite clear it was not going to live up to that at all. I know for people that watched this live, I can imagine you were trying to turn up the brightness because you can't see anything in this episode. Everything is too dark, and you can do a dark episode while having it lit really well. We just got done referencing Helm's Deep. That's a battle that happens at night and also in rain, but you can still see everything perfectly because of the lighting of, you have lightning, so that's providing some light here. It doesn't...
And while he is saying all of this, I can just watch and observe every single scene that he is showing in the background. I can see it just fine. Where's the issue?
To be so dark that we can't see anything that's happening on screen. And I will say there are some beautiful moments, like when the dragons are above the clouds.
Of course, the hypocritical praise of the writing, directing, acting, effects, cinematography, music, everything but the writing, everything but the most important point of a story, of a drama TV series. Everything works except the story, except the core and the heart of the TV show. That failed. Yeah. If that already failed to you, like all of those excuses to appear objective and differentiated, because this is all this is. He is only praising everything but the writing in order to appear objective and fair and honest. But it's worthless. Because your judgment remains the same. It's a failure. It's bad. It doesn't make sense. Like, why are you then saying, oh, this door looks good? This screen looks good. The lighting is good. Who cares? It all adds up. It's a paradox. It's a contradiction in and of itself. Because the scenery, the music, the imagery, it all supports the actual story. It enhances and strengthens it. You can't separate those two. The image tells a story as well. If they work, if you like them, you kinda have to like the story as well, but of course he's not doing it. He's separating it. He can't see the bigger picture. He can't see the story as a whole, what it is. He has to break it down into parts he liked and that he didn't like. He can't judge a story overall.
That's an iconic shot of season 8, in my opinion. But overall, the episode is just hard to follow. It's hard to watch. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense from the military tactics standpoint. People have,
Yet their strategy worked out, and they were able to defeat the Night King.
Just eating this episode alive with those kind of videos. So check those out if you want to know more. But just generally, think about the battle strategy. You have a force that outnumbers you by a ton. You have the Night King who can raise the dead, but yet you have a bulk majority of your forces outside of the walls and also behind your siege engine.
This is again, it's cognitive dissonance. I hate this word, I don't want to use this. He's just saying how bad the odds are, how undefeatable the dead are. Yet he thinks that having all of these soldiers inside the castle instead of in front of it would make a difference. Like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna smash each other to death like all those people, all those piles building up in the Battle of the Bastards, all crunched into one place where they can't move? Are they just waiting for the dead to walk over the walls and just kill them out of the gate? Like the cognitive dissonance. Like he's able to see how undefeatable the dead are, but then he's saying the strategies were bad. Okay, fair point, you can claim that. But then his solution, what would be an improvement for him, would be to make matters even worse by just cramming them all inside the castle. He didn't get the point of the army being supposed to protect the castle, instead of the castle protecting the army. The point of the army is to protect the castle, not the other way around.
Makes absolutely no sense. You have one of your most valuable pieces being your mounted horse, and for some reason they're just sent in to die instead of flanking.
Yes, to lure out the Night King, because you end everything with the Night King, not by killing his foot soldiers, not by killing his pawns. Night King, he's still able to smile, he's still arrogant, he still has some humanity, some human flaws in him left. You want to make him angry, you want to challenge him. Because I guess I'm very convinced that he wasn't expecting that. An assault from the defenders, from the living. And that tickled his ego a bit. And that's why he interfered and said, not with me, not with me. I'm gonna show you who's boss. The majority of the forces were sacrificed to lure out the Night King, because that's how you win the battle. Defeating the Night King, not by defeating all his whites. But of course, the battle strategist expert, he doesn't get this, because he didn't understand Game of Thrones.
Or doing anything that makes sense with mounted forces, and overall, the battle just doesn't make a whole lot of sense from a narrative or even just a
Yeah, nothing made sense for you, nothing. I just stood up this morning, but it didn't make any sense.
realistic standpoint. The other issue you run into with this battle is they're trying to make it feel like Helm's Deep. So with Helm's Deep, again, if you haven't watched The Lord of the Rings,
I disagree. Both visually, it doesn't look like Helm's Deep because Helm's Deep had all those blue colors, all those spotlights, like blue. It had a lot of blue in it. But this episode was really either dark or it was orange. It was either dark or orange, more like this color palette. And also, like battle-wise, it wasn't like Helm's Deep at all. Because there was no army coming in, no army coming in at the end of the battle to save the day. It didn't happen. And also how the characters were treated, how their individual fights were treated, was not the same as Battle of Helm's Deep. You don't have a character sliding off a shield on top of bodies, shooting arrows on other enemies, and then a dwarf who is making jokes with the same characters about how many characters they have killed thus far, cracking jokes mid-battle. We also don't have this in The Long Nights. I don't see any difference, except that the battle is at night. That's where all the similarities start and end.
would highly recommend watching it. But the idea with that battle is we have our heroes and they are consistently losing. But the difference with that battle and this battle for Winterfell is the way that they're losing the battle. It has its ups and its downs, and they're all realistic. Whereas the battle for Winterfell is just, okay, we have a very flawed battle strategy. We obviously start losing. And the other thing is there's no stakes to anything. Because when you start showing our characters where they're in situations where they should...
We watch reaction videos, how the people were on their toes. Watch or search up reviews and impressions first time when people saw this episode, how they were on the edge of their seats. There was a lot of tension. Even if you're not happy with the end result, you were on the edge of your seats.
Easily die, and then they never die, outside of characters that at this point have outlived their welcome. At this point, they have nothing...
Wow, he's now complaining that characters whose stories were told to the finish line, who have no story left to tell, whose climax is that they are gonna die, they're gonna sacrifice themselves for the greater good, he's now complaining about that. That characters and the storylines come full circle. Like, do season 8 haters even listen to themselves? Like, I'm already half an hour into this and it's so much bullshit. It's so bad. Oh no, I just said bad. I don't want to be like him. I don't want to repeat the same words all the time. But yeah, maybe he infected me a bit.
Left to give to the story, so characters like Jorah, and don't get me wrong, I think he has a solid death defending his queen. I think Daenerys probably should have died as well, given the situation she was...
Of course he has no issue with safe, established redemption deaths. And another point that just confirms my image that he's just an NPC season 8 hitter like everyone else. Of course, they all would have preferred a heroic death for Daenerys, a sacrifice where her integrity, her image as a savior and great ruler stays intact. Of course they prefer that. Because they don't want to see Daenerys for what she really is. They don't want the real natural climax for Daenerys that has been built up over 8 seasons. They want the interpretation. They want the imagination of what Daenerys is to be alive. Yeah, season 8 denied them that luxury.
In with Jorah, but overall, there are these characters that die, but they don't mean anything because their time in the story is up. And even characters like Jaime, who it feels like his storyline is done based on the way that season 7 ended, he somehow survives while being on the front lines against...
Again, it's about self-reflecting, it's about trying to see the bigger picture, not judging season 7 only by what season 8 seems to tell you or seem to promise you. That's your failure. You can't see the whole story, the whole character of Jaime for what it is. You are like a rock. You stay at the season 7 finale, and this is where your interpretation is solid of Game of Thrones, and you won't move any way further. You won't see any other picture, you won't have any enlightenment. You are not open for new information about Jamie's character, for his storyline. No, because you already were fine with that interpretation. You already accepted this as rock solid. And once season 8 went further, went beyond, also admittedly it went back in regards to Jamie's worst demons, his toxic relationship to Cersei. He also moved forward by becoming a more honorable knight, by honoring his vow to fight for Winterfell to save the living and to try to protect his love of his life, pregnant love of his life, and his child from certain death. He redeemed himself as a knight, not as a lover. But season 8 haters, they can't view it differentiated.
This threat that's been hyped up for all these seasons, he has one hand that he's not even good at fighting with and somehow is fine. We see multiple shots throughout the episode where you see the White Walkers are all over our characters, but it seems like they're just hugging them. They're not trying to kill them. None of that. And so that's the other problem, is there is no real tension in this episode. All of our characters have plot armor unless they're expendable, and it leads to a very...
Every character and every story has plot armor in situations where there's supposed to be tension, but the story's not over yet, so they are not supposed to die. Every character has plot armor. In every story.
Not fulfilling watch, because we have instances where, for instance, Jon is surrounded by all of these risen up dead. He's surrounded completely. He should be dead because the Night King does another one of these as Jon's trying to confront him. It should spell the end of Jon, but it somehow doesn't, and Jon somehow gets out of this situation. It's just a very artificial episode to lead to the point where nobody can get to the Night King besides Arya. And I think the other issue you have with this episode is the execution of how the...
Well, the story illustrated that no one was able to get to Arya. Why? Daenerys, well, no one was able to kill the Night King. They tried everything. Jon tried the honorable way by going for a one-on-one fight, the old way. And the Night King, just like Ramsay at the Battle of the Bastards, denied him that luxury because he's not sure whether he can defeat Jon or not, but he is sure that his army is more powerful than Jon's army. So no Star Wars Disney one-on-one fight between Jon and the Night King, because the Night King is written as a smart character who's not taking any chances. The other one, if it's not Jon who makes the killing blow, Daenerys, who tries to burn him with Drogon, also doesn't work because season 7 established, and also season 5, that fire can't kill White Walkers. When the White Walker steps into the hut in Hardhome in season 5, the fire moves away from him. When the Night King walks through dragon fire in the battle where the Ice Lake battle happened in season 7, the fire moves away from him. Fire can't kill him. The magic protects him. Jon, the two chosen ones, can't kill him. Instead, the underdogs, the less charismatic, supernatural beings of the story, Bran and Arya, they could defeat him. The Night King had Bran on his mind. He was prepared for Bran, but not for Arya. That's how great the story was.
Night King dies. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to clarify this right away. Arya killing the Night King is not necessarily a bad thing. I actually do think it makes sense from the standpoint of she has been trained to be somebody that is stealthy. She can assassinate a single target.
Yeah, okay, he learned at least something from his discussion with the season 8 fan, because he did a pretty solid job of defending or explaining Arya's and Daenerys storylines and character. And he's just kind of repeating what he said in that conversation.
Very effectively. she should be good at that. That's what we were shown in like season 5 and some of season 6 as well. That was her training for the most part. Arya, and I'll talk about her character later on, is someone that was never a great, like, hand-to-hand frontal combat, good at fighting like people like Brienne. She was never someone like that. She never got training to do that. So she actually would fit the...
Except with Zero Forel? Except with The Wave? Are we watching the same show? Or are we leaving out convenient details in order to make our point stay true?
Perfect candidate of being able to assassinate a single target, given she was given the tools to do that. And so I think it makes sense from that point of view. But the way it's executed, the way that Jon plays really no role in the Night King's defeat, given the fact that his...
Except uniting fire and ice, except uniting the greatest armies the world has ever seen, except for the fact that everyone at Winterfell who is there for the last stand is only there because of Jon, including Arya. She only went back to Winterfell because Hotbite told her that Jon has become king in the north. She wanted to go to King's Landing initially, to kill Cersei. She didn't want to go north. But of course he doesn't care about that either.
Rivalry has been built up with the Night King the entire time.
Entire time he means since season 5 episode 8, since the ending of season 5. And even that was a fake out, it was a red herring. The Night King's true nemesis was Bran, not Jon.
It just feels very much like, this is a twist that nobody expected, so let's just throw it in. It's a lot of the Last Jedi writing of the...
Like I said, it's not even a real twist. Night King and Bran were built up as arch nemesis, not Jon and the Night King. Of course, like the superficial and fast to understand the story viewer / season 8 hater, of course he's coming to this very obvious interpretation and conclusion, because he didn't dig deeper, because he didn't try to understand Game of Thrones.
Second sequel movie where Rian Johnson admits, he threw in shocks because, well, they were shocking. They didn't actually make sense with what was happening in the story, but we're going to throw them in for shock value. And that kind of feels like what happens here with Arya.
That's the entire reason George R. R. Martin wrote A Song of Ice and Fire, to shock people, to subvert expectations, to break norms and traditions, to dare brave and innovative storytelling instead.
In episode 3, where she wasn't the person expected to kill the Night King, and so they did it. And again, you can do that stuff if it makes sense. Like, people didn't expect Ned to die in season 1, but he did, and that made a lot of sense given the stakes and given the consequences of Ned's actions and who Joffrey was. So let's talk about what actually...
Just like the Night King's character was responsible for his downfall, his flaws, his arrogance, his ego led him to go there to kill Bran himself. He didn't need to do that. He just could have sent a White. He just could have sent another White Walker. But his humanity was his downfall. And Arya's training was developed much longer, much better than Joffrey's sadistic nature over the course of 9 episodes.
Happens. So the White Walkers have overrun our forces of the living. Basically, everyone seems dead. They're inside of the Winterfell walls. Jon is screaming at Viserion, and the Night King is basically going to kill Bran, because Bran is basically this representation of stories and of life and our history, and so the Night King wants to wipe that out. And Bran has basically been used as a distraction to try and lure the Night King in so that they could kill him with the dragons, more or less. That ends up not actually working out overall. But either way, Bran doesn't do anything in this episode. He tells Theon he's a...
Except walking ravens to lure out the Night King even further, to expose himself openly, and to time travel to save Arya in the past so she could be able to kill the Night King in the present.
Good man, as Theon gives his life, and probably the best death, best character of the show overall, of season 8 especially. And so at this point, you would be expecting Bran's going to do something. We've had this whole journey where Bran's been learning these powers to, you would assume, defeat the others. He does nothing. He stares at the Night King, and all of a sudden, Arya comes screaming out of nowhere. Somehow she also was elevated above the Night King, and the Night King catches her. The Night King should instantly kill her at that point, but he doesn't for some reason. And Arya does her little maneuver that she used on Brienne back in season 7 that didn't make any sense in season 7, so it still doesn't make any sense now.
So even if the payoff was foreshadowed and build up and set up, it's bad as well. And also, killing Arya immediately, he's aware that Arya's jump and the Night King's reaction to it is presented to us in slow-mo. He's not holding Arya for a long time and is waiting and is doing nothing. He just caught her, and Arya is immediately dropping the knife to kill him, the dagger. I don't think that he understood that. But why? Like, how? Like, you could even see this scene well enough. It wasn't dark enough that you could probably see it to now complain about it in all your glory. But you don't see that it's in slow-mo. Yeah. Tells you all you need to know about haters.
And with that, the Night King is killed in one fell swoop, in a way that made no sense. I remember being back in the community. I think the community was very split. I think for a lot of people, this spelled the end. Everybody was like, you just can't do this episode. This was terrible. The show...
No, this episode was still relatively split online. There were a lot of people who liked it. The real split, the real division happened after episode 4 or during episode 4, where the story revealed its true colors. It's not about the White Walkers. So what is the story actually about if the White Walkers are not the climax of the story? Before the episode, Manny fought Cersei. Then the episode airs. And you see a change in frame. Like I said, the curtain revealed. We now see Daenerys for what she really is, with the appropriate music and framing. No more heroic, epic music, no more glorious dragon scenes or beautiful words to hide all of her true character and intentions. No, this is where Game of Thrones showed its real colors and Daenerys' real colors as well. This is where the real division happened. And this is the episode that confirmed the plot leaks that were happening back then to be true. And this is where the review bombing happened for the last 2 episodes before they even aired, because episode 4 of season 8 proved those plot leaks to be real, and people didn't like the plot. They haven't even seen the execution. They haven't seen a single second from those episodes, but they knew they didn't like what they read. So they already reject it. They don't give it a fair chance. They already judge it, and there's no way this story or those episodes could have convinced them how it works, how it's great. No. They already made up their mind before they even saw it. Is that fair and objective judgment of a story, of a piece of art? I would say no. That's infantile, childish, insulted, resenting behavior from grown-ups. It's sad, but that's how people are.
It's ruined. I mean, already the talks of we should refilm the final season was beginning here. There was another part of the community...
Yeah, it was. I think the petition was launched right after episode 4 aired. After they knew where the story was going because of the plot leaks. They knew we need another story that fits our interpretation, our imagination of what the story should have been like.
Well, that said, okay, I understand why Arya did it. The execution wasn't the best, but let's see how this plays out. You know, there can still be a satisfying ending, even if, you didn't love, or even if you did love, the White Walker ending. And that, to me, is where things really unraveled. Because you could somehow maybe accept the first 3 episodes, the finishing of the White Walker plot, even if it was terrible. It didn't answer any of the questions that had been posed in earlier seasons about the White Walkers and what their motivations are. Why do they, kill these people and then arrange their bodies in certain patterns?
It's the same pattern that where the trees were aligned when the children of the forest created the Night King, the first White Walker. What we saw in the season 6 flashbacks, like those symbols that they create in the earlier seasons to represent that. That's what it's about. It's a warning. It's a mocking sign of the birth symbol of the White Walkers. It's supposed to mark the children of the forests and their sacred traditions. It's supposed to mark humanity and man itself. Because the White Walkers are coming to kill you. That's all there is. There's no convoluted, no contrived, sad backstory for the Night King to understand his motives. No, they were simply made to destroy humanity. And they ran amok and killed its own creators. That's all that's to them. That's fine, because the heart of the story isn't the White Walkers. It's Jon and Daenerys, not Jon and the Night King. If you were open and self-reflective to see the entire story as a whole, with open and new eyes, after knowing where it's all leading, do rewatches, see all the signs, interpret the story better. But of course not. You can't do this, even 7 years later.
It felt very underwhelming. Bran did not play a single role in the Night King's defeat. Jon screamed at a
Except saving Arya and making sure she was able to kill the Night King.
dragon.
And also, like, that's the hidden story that is not spoon-fed to us with Arya and Bran, but also that he is conveniently again leaving out that Bran was the one to give Arya the dagger in season 7, the dagger that Arya used to kill the Night King. But of course, he had no role in it. No role at all. He didn't throw the Night King out with his ravens. He didn't save Arya in the past. He didn't give Arya the dagger to kill the Night King. And of course, he didn't propose to be a bait to lure out the Night King as well. No, he didn't. He had no part in it of the Night King's defeat. No, nothing. Nothing makes sense.
And we never really got this face-off of him versus the Night King, which, again, I don't think Jon...
Now he's trolling at next level speed, because really the ending of The Long Night, we get a second long a face-off between the Night King and Bran. That went on for very long, because the Night King is confused. Why is Bran so sure of himself? Why is he not afraid? Why does he almost have a smirk on his face? Why is he smiling? Why is he so secure? Because he knows he has already won, because he returns after or shortly before Theon is about to die, and he was done traveling in the past. He has saved Arya. And he knows Arya can now come and save him and kill the Night King. That's what the long stare down was about. Of course, he's not questioning that. He's not trying to understand the actual story. Because he can't. He's only focusing on his feelings. Oh, did I enjoy that? Did I like that? No, it's not about your enjoyments. First and foremost, that comes after. But before you can enjoy something, you have to be able to appreciate it in the first place. And how do you do that? If you try to understand it, but you don't do that. You don't question, why was there this weird long face-off between Bran and the Night King? Why was the Night King so confused? Like, why was he like, he even had his head moved to the side a bit. Like, what is going on? Why is this kid so happy? Why is he so good? I'm just standing in front of him. Everyone is dying. I'm about to kill him. Why is he so secure of himself? Yeah, and he hates season 8 haters don't ask themselves the real important questions. They just judge. They don't understand.
Should have necessarily been the person to kill the Night King, but he should have played a role. Like, you could have seen Jon fighting the Night King, which could have actually been the real distraction for Arya then to sneak up while everyone is focused on Jon.
Again, like proposing or imposing his fan fiction above the actual story, because he knows it better. This would have been more epic. This would have been more Disney, Star Wars, like more consumer friendly. Yeah, of course. Because he doesn't care to understand the actual story. He just wants a story that he wants to see.
Jon and killing the Night King. Like, that's a more natural way that would have fulfilled a lot of the plot lines.
A more comfortable, a more cliche, a more non-wave, a more traditional wave. Yeah, you can do that, and it also could have worked, but it also would have stripped Thrones ending of its richness and greatness by just doing the same thing that every other story already did.
Better and would have made more sense. So with the first 3 episodes, it wasn't off to a good start for season 8. A lot of people were very much checked out of the series at this point already. I know it was very prominent, especially in that last season where leaks started to become very apparent. I know the finale specifically was leaked in that time between episode 5 and 6, and things just started to unravel. I mean, this show was already
Episode 4 and 5 were also leaked.
Struggling, post like season 4, season 7, it got really bad. And season 8 was
revisionist history. As if book purists didn't hate on season 4 as well, or didn't have many issues with it when it initially aired, only in hindsight to appear objective and differentiate, because season 4 is really well off. It had a really good perception, not with the general audience, with the general viewers, and also because season 4 has the George R. R. Martin stamp, because people believe in the myth that he's still very much creatively involved within those first seasons, and because they believe, or not they believe, but it's a fact, because those seasons are based on his books, on his source material. They are protected by it. So those seasons are holy and sacred, and you are not allowed to criticize them. At least not even remotely to the extent of season 8. Yeah, of course, some fake criticisms, you can make some admissions in order to appear differentiated, but they are few and far between. Like, the narrative nowadays online mostly is that season 4 was either the last good or even the best season of Thrones, and that's it. Because of Martin, because of the books, because of those myths, and because of it. Also, season 4 was, among seasons 6 and 7, it was the most fan-friendly season out of all of Game of Thrones.
Really struggling to deliver that finish that people wanted. And as we dive into episode 4, we now have to shift gears, because the first half of the season was focused on the White Walkers. Now we need to focus on really 2 characters, Cersei and Dany, because Cersei is the quote-unquote villain of the season in the back half, but it really turns into Daenerys. And so what D&D try to do throughout the next couple episodes, well, I should say specifically episode 4, is they try to basically take away everyone from Daenerys so that she feels very isolated, so that she feels kind of depressed, and that leads her then...
They didn't only do that, they also changed the framing of her massively. They didn't just take characters away. But of course he's not admitting that, because the framing fooled him in the first 7 seasons to fall for a tyrant's propaganda.
To do her actions that she does later on. Now, I'm going to talk about Daenerys way more in depth when we talk about each individual character, but that's the general idea. They're trying to make Daenerys go mad. They're trying to justify it to you, the audience member. Why
Daenerys never went mad. She only did what she always wanted to do and what was always on her mind, what she has always promised to do and what she has always threatened to do along those 7 seasons. But I guess you kind of forgot.
She's going to basically nuke and eradicate the population of King's Landing. Cersei, at the same time, is just kind of sitting around drinking wine. She's pregnant, but Euron doesn't realize that,
Another paradox. He's aware. He's just admitting he's aware. Cersei's pregnant. But then, what else is she supposed to do? Is she supposed to fight? Is she supposed to pick up his sword? Is she pregnant? What is she supposed to do? What she did is kill a full-grown dragon, killing Missandei, exposing Daenerys, becoming the first and last ruling queen of the 7 kingdoms, and having the most poetic, the most beautiful, sad death, romantic death of the entire show with Jaime in the penultimate episode.
The kid that Cersei has is not obviously his, because Well, they didn't start sleeping together until very recently, so it obviously has to be Jaime's, or at least somebody else's that isn't his. That whole plotline doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But then going back to Daenerys' side of things, they're basically planning how they're going to get all their forces south to deal with Cersei. And at this point, it leads to Euron once again teleporting and knowing exactly where Daenerys is, while Daenerys, who has dragons and
Teleporting? You are aware in episode 1 Euron had his fleet in King's Landing to protect Cersei. In episode 4, he is hiding not even in his entire fleet, just some ships, and of course Silence, his biggest ship, his main ship. He is hiding them at Dragonstone behind huge, or not huge, but small islands, yet still islands. Those are island-sized rocks, land. You are aware of the geography of Game of Thrones, how close King's Landing and Dragonstone are. What teleporting? When he was in episode 1 at King's Landing and is only there at Dragonstone 3 episodes later. How is that teleporting? The biggest teleport in the entire story happened in season 1, episode 1, when Robert, Jaime and Cersei traveled from King's Landing to Winterfell and arrived within the same episode 15 minutes later. That's the biggest teleport in the entire story, and no one bat an eye, no one complained, no one cared, because fans were still open and unbiased to go into a new and awesome storyline. But at the end of the story, fans are entitled, they are sad, they are angry, they are disappointed, so they destroy or complain about things that have been part about the story since the very beginning. What is this called? If you complain about one thing later on that was already part of the story since the beginning, how is that called? But you don't complain about the same instance at the beginning of the story, how is that called? Hypocrisy. Thank you.
Four forces, has no scouts still. She still hasn't learned her lessons from season 7 from being surprised by Euron's fleet twice. And Jaime deceived.
Yes, because Daenerys is on an high after defeating the dead and coming home.
Leaving them and taking Highgarden somehow in season 7. She hasn't learned that lesson, and so Daenerys loses a dragon somehow, instantly, to Euron.
Not somehow, by 3 bullets, by 3 scorpions.
Which then breaks continuity later on in episode 5, and it's all basically used to try.
There's no how is this word pronounced? I can't pronounce it. There's no fail in there, because Drogon has always been stronger, he has always been faster and larger than his siblings, and also he's not as injured as them. And he was prepared, and Daenerys. They were prepared for the new and improved scorpions. Rhaegal wasn't prepared. He wasn't. He was still injured. And he was right. Daenerys doesn't learn from her mistakes. Sansa warned her not to rush into the next battle, but to let her army rest instead. That's also including Rhaegal. And come to new powers. But no, Daenerys was too afraid that Jon's secret might leak out, so she rushed into the next battle, flew too close to the sun, and paid the price for it. It's Daenerys' arrogance that cost Rhaegal's life. It's her failure, not the writers. Daenerys, also when he's just about to bring it up, probably, she never forget about the Iron Fleet. Varys is mentioning it to her in the same episode. She just didn't anticipate an attack at Dragonstone. She was caught off guard and fell into a trap. That's how ambushes work. And that's why it doesn't work again with Drogon in the next episode, episode 5, the best episode of the entire series, because it's not gonna work twice. She knows about it now. She's not gonna fall into the same trap twice.
Make Daenerys go mad. And because that is the premise and it falls completely flat on its face, episode 4 is one of the worst episodes of television.
It's one of the best episodes of television.
Think of season 8 of just ever. We also start to see more of this leaning into Jon should be king, one of the worst kept secrets by Sansa specifically. Varys gets executed because he's a complete and utter...
Now he's an advocate for not even talking about the biggest plot line or the biggest MacGuffin, I think it's called, in the entire story. We're not supposed to focus on that. We are not supposed to make it a topic because that would make more sense. It would make for a better story or more exciting storytelling. No, it would make sense. That's my issue. Like, people they are acting like math teachers who are reviewing an arts test or an artwork. And if 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, the story is a failure for them. That's not how you approach and judge pieces of art. That's not a fair way to do it. Because characters' flaws are part of the characters, part of the story. They are not writer's flaws, the writer's flaws. That's what he can't, that's what he doesn't get and what he can't separate.
Idiots sending out letters like directly in front of people. Characters left and right just...
Varys didn't had any letters getting out in front of any people. He made it in secrecy in his own room. He didn't give Jon a letter. He didn't give Grey Worm or Daenerys any letters. Like, how bad faith do you want to get?
Assassinated throughout the entire season. It all leads to episode 5 when Daenerys unleashes Drogon, attacking the city, destroying all of Euron's fleet, destroying the gate, destroying the city in general. And the biggest problem I have with it is just continuity. How powerful are the dragons?
Continuity, okay, now I can pronounce it.
Because in episode 3, we saw Jon was not burnt alive when Viserion was basically actively using its fire directly where Jon was. But then we...
No, because Jon was always hiding behind a wall. The wall was always protecting him. He never was hit directly by the fire. Another lie by a Season 8 hater.
Skip to Daenerys in episode 5, and she's able to melt and destroy an entire gate like a bomb, or destroy an entire ship in one little fell swoop, which, if we even go back to Season 6, it took all 3 dragons to even burn one slaver ship. There's a lot of continuity and problems with Daenerys and Drogon's power.
It's just plot armor for objects now. It's not that deep and not that bad.
Power scaling in this show, but overall, just not done.
Oh, he's thinking he's watching Dragon Ball Z now, or what? Or Marvel. Oh, call me not surprised.
Because then at this point, the city obviously is surrendering because they're screwed. Because somehow Euron could instantly hit Daenerys in her dragons when they were in the open sea, moving literally parallel to away from them, harder to hit than coming straight at, but whatever.
No. They came from the side. They were not directly in front of them, and they were hiding between and behind small islands. They were not out in the open. They were not right in front of Daenerys. Stop lying.
And at that point, they surrender. Daenerys then, for some reason, which we'll talk about in her character section, she decides to just start strafe running King's Landing instead.
Again, didn't understand Game of Thrones or Daenerys. Daenerys already decided the people's fate in Season 8, Episode 4. Not in this moment. Not in Episode 5.
Just killing Cersei, just going to where the root of her pain exists. She just takes it out on the people, I guess. We see the Mountain and the Hound fight, which is kind of just fan service, which is like...
Yes, that's like the only fan service-y thing that Season 8 did.
Okay, if you like it, you like it. Okay, cool. There is
even though you could argue it's not even fan service per se, because the rivalry between the Hound and the Mountain was already set up and built up in the very first book, in the first season. Before there was even any fan base, it was already established and intended to have a climax by George R. R. Martin. So it's fan-friendly, but it's not even fan service. Fan service is something that only comes into the world by fans' desire themselves. Not necessarily also it can come in combination with the writer, storyteller also setting that up, but it's not necessarily always combined with it. Most of the time, pure fan service is just giving the fans and fulfilling their desires, what they have dreamed and hoped of would happen in the story. What they themselves hype themselves up. Not what the writer necessarily intended to tell. That's fan service. So even Haunted Mountain, it's not really fan service. It's more fan friendly, yes, but it's not pure fan service.
His little speech to Arya about revenge and what it's done and how it's consumed Sandor or the Hound. It's a nice moment, but the problem is it was not built up too well at all. And it's
No, not at all. They only spent like 1.5 seasons in the first half of the series, and they only spent, or at least they had a scene together in every single episode of season 8 leading up to this moment. But of course, it's never enough for haters. They need so much spoon feeding. They need so much reassurance what the story is about. They need everything to be spelled out for them in order to understand and appreciate it.
something that Arya should have been struggling with throughout season 4, 5, 6, 7. And all of a sudden now it's a thing. When Arya has really just been a psychopath for multiple seasons now at this point.
He kind of forgot the scene with Arya and the Lannister soldiers in the woods in the season 7 premiere.
Just think that it's a moment that could have been very powerful if her arc leading up to that episode had been good. It just wasn't. It was terrible. Arya is one of the worst characters of the last 2 seasons specifically. So at this point, Cersei and Jaime, they're trying to flee after Jaime has basically been wounded by Euron, and another cringe line of Euron saying, "I'm the man who killed Jaime Lannister." The two are trying to escape, and then they are killed by bricks. 2 of the most vital and important characters.
Ned Stark was killed by steel. The Mountain, no, Oberyn was killed by hands. Like, if you approach it this bad faith, everything can sound ridiculous. The intention matters. Do you want to good mouth the story, the characters, and the ending or not? If not, you say things like what you just said with bricks, or what I just said with steel or hands. If you want to truly and fairly judge your story, you understand that this death also represents Cersei's ambitious downfall. Her own ambition, her own legacy, her own ambition is coming crashing down on her. It's beautifully, it's tragic, it's amazing. It's the best death scene in Game of Thrones. Jaime and Cersei.
To this story that we've been waiting for their finish. They die to bricks. And there's more to talk about with Jaime specifically that I'm going to wait for talk about his character a little bit later. But Cersei, one of the biggest villains of the season, gets killed by bricks. Think about that.
Yes, I'm already aware that you wanted a gruesome death for a powerless pregnant woman alongside her unborn child. I'm aware that you want that.
So yeah, episode 5 is just a terrible episode as well, and episode 6 doesn't get much better. Now, I will say this myself.
That's it, that's his part. All he has to say about this story's climax, about the biggest crime in the story, the biggest supposed twist of the entire story, because it wasn't really a twist. It was just a revelation what Daenerys really is, but she didn't change in her character alongside all those seasons. We only saw her real face. The heart of the story, Daenerys' climax, the most powerful character in fiction, her climax. And this is all he has to say about it. And that's like very telling, because he can't talk about it that much, because he didn't grasp it that much, he didn't understood it that much. I don't know exactly whether he spent how much more time he spent talking about the Long Night, but it's obviously his bigger issue, and it's also a much easier task for him to complain about this episode, because it's all ridiculous. It's about strategies, it's about lightning, and the episode is too dark. And it's about like so technical things, you know? It's not really about the stories and characters as much as it is in episode 5 with Daenerys, Jaime or Cersei. You can complain about the surface, he can complain superficially because he never got to understand Game of Thrones deeper and properly.
I am someone that, especially when I love a television show, I don't want to look at leaks. I want to experience the things that are happening on screen for the first time naturally.
So did I. I didn't read the leaks. I was aware, okay, there's a plot leak running around, and also in my, how do we say, around me there were people where I was aware they read those plot leaks and they were also already pissed and said, oh, if this is true, the ending sucks. This was before episode 5. This was a left feminist woman, who, of course, was trapped by the Daenerys propaganda, who fell for it, and of course didn't like the ending. Because before she even has seen the episode, she already rejected it. She already made up her mind. I didn't want that at all. Like, I didn't want to be biased. I wanted to reopen and experience the story as well for myself for the first time in its natural state. The episode itself, not in some plot leaks what someone has written down, what's supposed to happen. Which is mostly also wrong, because people get things wrong and they write it down wrong. Because, for example, episode 6, Tyrion, like the gathering, to figure out what to do with Tyrion and Jon and how to avoid war with the Unsullied, that was no trial, it was a gathering. There was no judge, there was no jury, it wasn't a trial for Tyrion. It was a gathering to figure out the situation as a whole, the issue, the problems. And yet still, even to this day, I see people still thinking, oh yeah, Tyrion's trial, and he is on his own trial, and he gets to talk and make suggestions and all this. No, it wasn't a trial. You know, like something like that, because of plot leaks, people got it wrong, they passed it down, and others buy it because they can't think for themselves. They just follow a brainless hive mind instead.
I don't want to have leaks or any of that. I don't want to read what's going to happen before it actually happens. But I was so displeased and pissed off by the state of Game of Thrones based on season 7 and 6 that I definitely read the leak. I knew what was going to happen in season 8. And even while reading the leak, I thought it was fake because I thought there was no way the writers could do this poor of a job. And so what does this episode follow? It follows Daenerys all of a sudden becoming a World War II German official.
Daenerys is not Hitler. She doesn't stand behind the race, ideology. She is not preaching that the silver-haired people of the world are superior and everyone else is scum. She fights oppression and inequalities. She is personified left extremism. She's a communist. If you betray her, if you don't align with her worldview of equality and freedom, if you don't agree with that, she will kill you no matter what. No matter how you look like. No matter what you are. She doesn't care about your race. She doesn't care about what you are, what you were born into. If you reject her, deny her, don't go in line with her worldview, you are toast. You get burned. You get crucified. You get eaten by her dragons. She is Stalin. Stalin. Not Hitler. That's it. And you never got it. There are no swastikas in the series finale. You can also see it at the moment where I post these pictures. There are sickles, there are araks, who represent the symbol, the flag of communism. And of course he doesn't get that. Because he thinks, oh, when Daenerys screams and has a speech, she's Hitler. Okay, if that qualifies her for Hitler, then she was already Hitler in season 4. When she screamed towards Meereen. She was already Hitler in season 6, when she screamed in a loud speech in front of the Dothraki. She always screamed. It's about the content of the speech that matters, the ideology behind it. not the way she tells it. Admittedly, of course, emoji-wise, there are similarities to the Nuremberg rallies, to the Nuremberg speeches of Hitler in Second World War. That's true. Like emoji, there are also connections, there are also references, of course, but it's not the whole picture. That's not the whole picture. She's no racist. She's a communist. And you never got that.
I can't really say the other words or I'll get demonetized because YouTube doesn't like actual history for some reason. But you know what I'm kind of referencing toward.
Yeah, we know why you do this video. You want the money. You want the profit of Game of Thrones hate. That's the only reason you do it. You don't care about the story. You don't care about the characters. You are no Game of Thrones fan. You are a Game of Thrones hater.
And so at this point, she's becoming a dictator. She's wanting to take over all the rest of the kingdoms. And it leads to...
Not only the kingdoms, the entire world. Not just Westeros.
This issue where, what are they going to do with Daenerys? Arya tells Jon, I know a killer when I see one. Yeah, obviously. She just mass murdered.
Again, he can't read between the lines. That's not the intention why Arya is telling Jon that. She's meaning to tell Jon she's a killer. She won't stop at people that are close to her either. She just killed random people she doesn't care about, that she doesn't know. If she's gonna do that in the first place and also on this scale, she's not gonna stop at her own family, at the man she loves and who loves her. Eventually she's gonna turn on you as well. That's what Arya is warning Jon about. And of course you can't read between the lines. You need to have Arya saying everything just like I did. Have like a 20-paragraph sentence. Not a short and strong sentence where everyone with honest and fair intentions to understand the story actually can get the meaning of it. But of course not. You break it down to the most superficial and simple interpretation of this line as possible to put Season 8 down on your level. But Season 8, that's the issue. Season 8 is far above you. And you don't see that because you are below it.
An entire... Oh my god. The characters are so dumb and stupid in this season. I mean, they have been for a couple seasons at this point. But then you have Tyrion, who's trying to basically, as the writers, tell Jon and us, the audience, why Daenerys went mad. Then Jon...
The best scene in the entire series.
Just kills Daenerys because of this, and obviously she's not even a character anymore. She's been...
Not only because of this, he tested Daenerys. He wanted her to give him any excuse, any reason not to kill her. But there was no redeeming quality in her. There was no regret, no remorse. Nothing. She stands by her choice, and that's why Jon had to kill her.
Reduced to some dictator character that's not Daenerys. So
Daenerys has always been a tyrant who just served for propaganda and missed all the signs and actions.
Jon kills her. For some reason, Jon is not instantly killed at this point, given the fact that based off of, for one, the Unsullied, and also the Dothraki.
Because Grey Worm is still a slave and he can't make the choice to kill a highborn. If not instructed to do it. If Daenerys would have told him, gave him an order to kill Jon, of course he would have done it, but not on his own.
Yeah, the Dothraki are literally all named her blood riders. That's what Daenerys does. Now, I don't think this was ever established in Season 1, but if you're going off of the book, when a Khal dies, or in this case, Daenerys, a Khaleesi who would be their Khal, and her blood riders are still living, the blood riders have to die to go with their Khal into the afterlife. So, what should actually happen, and also they're supposed to avenge, like, their killer or whatever, but the idea should be that once Jon dies...
Did this happen in Season 2? Or at the end of Season 1, when Daenerys was both responsible for Drogo's death, by having him standing up for her and getting injured and infected and not caring to treat his wounds. And later on in the season 1 finale, when Daenerys actively kills Khal Drogo by putting a pillow above his face, on his face, to suffocate him. She kills him. Where were the loyal, loving, and revengeful Blood Riders there? They didn't kill Daenerys. Most just left her. They don't care. They only follow power. They are not they don't have much resentment. That's just how the Dothraki were portrayed and established in season 1/season 2. And that's it. Season 8 just continues the tradition. Daenerys gets killed, the powerful leader dies, and they move on towards the next powerful leader.
All the Dothraki should commit suicide. That's the crazy part of this whole thing.
Yeah, and you believe that they would actually do that, and you believe in that this would actually be good writing, or you believe in that this would even have any influence on people's reception about season 8 at all, as if the people care about the Dothraki. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit.
I'm not obviously stating that the Dothraki would follow through with that, but the idea...
Yeah, now he's realizing how ridiculous this suggestion is in the first place.
That Jon, the person that killed their Cal, their Khaleesi, whatever, is allowed to live, as well as the Unsullied...
Was it ever said that they also avenged their Khaleesi? I don't know.
Allowing this as well makes no sense. So this moves then to this great council, which again makes no sense at all because Tyrion is the one leading conversation. I'm not sure why Tyrion also hasn't been executed, given the fact...
Because most of the guests or participants of the council don't hate Tyrion. If that makes sense. And also because Grey Worm is not a speaker. He's not gonna hold a conversation. It's gonna be Tyrion, like always. Just like in season 1, when he's the powerless in the Eyrie and still gets to make all the choices, all the suggestions, and roll the dice. He rolled the dice in season 1, he rolled the dice in season 4, and he's just now taking again center stage when he is the one being not really in a position to do that, but he's still doing it because he can. Because people follow, or at least they don't follow Tyrion as a leader, but at least they listen to people who can talk, and who can talk reason and sense. But of course, you don't get it.
In fact, he was the one prompting Jon to kill her, and also he was convicted of treason from Daenerys, so I have no idea why he is still living either, outside of just obvious plot armor. But the whole idea that let's make the person in charge Bran, who the idea is, oh, he has the best story because he can tell all of the stories of Westeros, is ironic.
Not tell, he's not a storyteller, but he knows them, he can learn from them. That's what is important.
Given Bran is probably the worst character of the main ones still alive, like he's literally not in season 5. Now I know that's because of...
He's literally not even in book 4.
It would appear acting issues and scheduling stuff, but still, the character that somehow had the best story is the one that wasn't in a full season of the television show. Is a character that...
Funnily enough, like, he claimed earlier that Theon had the best story in season 8. Or that... Let's go further if he says he had the best story in season 8. Let's say he also is of the opinion, I'm not sure, I don't know, that Theon's storyline in the books is also very good. Maybe not the best, but high up there. It's very good. He likes it. Yeah, and in the books, he even skipped 2 books. He's not in book 3, he's not in book 4. Yet people still can appreciate and understand his story. You don't need to expose the audience or the reader to a character to be able to appreciate and understand him. I was able to, but you were obviously not.
Throughout season 8, did nothing. Bran, with all the powers...
Nothing that you saw.
he got in season 6. He knows how to time travel. He has unlimited access to knowledge. He did nothing for an entire season.
Nothing visible. Nothing for the superficial and simple solution-seeking viewer.
And then all he did in season 7 was confirm that Rhaegar and Lyanna were actually married, which has no real relevance on the story. And then the other...
Really? Jon's parentage, his secrets, had no impact on the story, except the biggest crime in the whole story in season 8, episode 5.
thing he does is he tells Sansa and Arya about Littlefinger and that whole plot, which is stupid as hell, but he's really not done much.
No, he didn't. He mostly confirmed their suspicions. But of course you don't get that either, because you try to understand the story by using outside of the story interviews and influence to get it. You don't see the story for what it is. Arya Sansa's rivalry is so deep. It's so show don't tell that you can't tell it how it really is.
The last 2 seasons of being a three-eyed crow and all powerful and all this stuff. And also the other craziest part is there are 2 alternatives that are brought up that are better than what they actually settled on. So one...
Better for a 21st century living viewer, not better for the people of Westeros.
Is Edmure stands up to be the person that should be king. And you might be thinking, okay, maybe an odd choice given Edmure's not been a big character in the show for the most part.
It's basically just asking for regression, because we already had stupid or pathetic and weak kings like Robert and Tommen. And that didn't lead to any good ending. Neither for them, not for the realm.
Changed him a lot from the books for the worst, but overall I can see it. Edmure is the person that is in charge of one of the kingdoms. He is in charge of the kingdom that's been most affected by the war, so if anything, if we're basing it on, well, they suffered the most, maybe they should be the kingdom that leads us into the next generation.
By going after that, then Sansa should have been queen, and the Daenerys worshippers would have lost their mind even more.
Totally fine. Edmure has been shown to be someone that cares about his people. He would be a solid king in that regard. He's a war veteran, all that type of stuff. In terms of the qualifications to lead the kingdoms, he has more than most people do. Okay, that gets shot down as they laugh at him, which is one of the most disrespectful parts of, I'd say, the entire season. It's just...
They also laugh at him in season 3, in his introduction scene. It's part of his character and the framing around him. Again, don't be a hypocrite. If you complain about this, complain about season 3 as well. But you're not gonna do it, because those sacred seasons are protected by the George R. R. Martin stamp and his holy books by the source material.
Edmure, his claim is laughable, but Bran's, the character who did nothing, who's not even a lord at this point, is made king. We're also listening to Tyrion, the guy...
Yes, he has no human flaws. That's why he was made king.
...who single-handedly destroyed Daenerys' campaign. For some reason, that is still...
Oh, now Tyrion is to blame. The tyrant is not to blame. She is innocent. Holy fuck. Like, Daenerys indoctrinated you so damn well. Holy fuck, Game of Thrones was such a masterpiece. Such a powerful social experiment. Making people fall in love with a tyrant over the course of how long? 9 years? 2011 to 2019? 9 years, 9 years, a decade.
Happening. And then it gets worse, because then Samwell pipes up and he goes, well, why don't we just do it how the Night's Watch do it, where there is a voting system. And you can understand why a lot of these high lords and ladies might scoff at that, but it makes more sense than Bran becoming king. And then it gets even worse, because then you think about who's actually at this meeting, and you literally have, at this point, Robert Baratheon's next legitimate heir. Remember, at the beginning of the season, Dany legitimizes Gendry. So Gendry should be the person, based off of the laws, outside of Jon, because Jon should already be executed anyway. He should be the next king. And in a lot of ways, it kind of makes sense, because Gendry is somebody that would appease some of the Targaryen loyalists, like, say, maybe the Dornish or the Greyjoys, because Gendry was somebody that was risen up by Daenerys that put him in charge of Storm's End. He is technically a Targaryen supporter, and he has the Targaryen lineage based off the Baratheons and their blood ties to the Targaryens. He is, in a lot of ways, the perfect choice, because he's also not a, Stark.
Yes, the perfect choice when going by old traditions and familiar patterns, but that was the whole point of the story, to break traditions, to launch a new system, where it's not about conquest, where it's not about blood right, it's about qualities. The throne is supposed to be a burden for the king, a duty, a service for the realm. It's not supposed to be a reward, not supposed to be a symbol of prestige. That's not what it's about.
Lackey or loyalist, because the one problem with, for instance, any of the other candidates for the Stark side of things is they're highly connected to that side of things. So Gendry, in a lot of ways, is the perfect choice for who should be king based on everything happening here, and he's never.
Now he is suggesting or claiming, yeah, Gendry would work because people are familiar to him and like him. Yeah, just like Bran.
Even brought up in this meeting, which is crazy. So Bran is made king. Then all of a sudden Sansa wants the North to be independent, which I understand, but what doesn't make any sense is why doesn't Dorne or the Iron Islands want to be now free? This doesn't make a...
Because they never once expressed their desire for independence in those 8 seasons. The Iron Islands expressed their desire for power, for more land. The Dornish or the Martells, they expressed a desire for revenge against the Lannisters, not independence, and they got that after Cersei's and Jaime's deaths.
Whole lot of sense, because they would have even more claim, in my opinion. The Dornish were never conquered. The only reason they became part of the Seven Kingdoms was House Targaryen, and they married into that family. Well, House Targaryen's gone, and at this point they've been disrespected throughout the entire show. They should also be willing to just say, we're independent. And honestly, at this point, based on where Westeros is at, I feel like every kingdom, as soon as Sansa is allowed to go free with the North, every kingdom should be saying, why don't we all just do this? Why don't we just go back to the pre-Aegon's conquest era where we had all these different...
Because not everyone desires the same things. Because maybe they are fine with the current system.
Kingdoms that are not under one ruler. You said a very...
Why are there so many members in the EU? Or why are there so many United States? Why are they not all independent from another? Why don't they make their own states? Why? Why don't they go out? Why is not everyone Brexiting like Great Britain? Because not every country, not every society feels the same.
Dangerous precedent when you do something like that. And there's never any repercussions to this because we don't have time for that. It's only 6 episodes and we don't really care about actual good writing. And so
you don't care about understanding your favorite story.
At this point, the series finishes out with just some mind-boggling decisions, like Jon's allowed to go to the wall for some reason, even though the wall has a hole in it. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Sansa becomes Queen of the North for some reason, even though she hasn't made a good decision in the last...
Okay, it doesn't make sense because there's a wall in the hole. Okay, but why didn't you have any issues with the wall when most of the castles prior, already when the series starts, are not even manned? How is the Night's Watch? How does this serve a purpose then, but not now?
Last 4 seasons of television, she's actually one of the most dumb characters in the show, in my opinion, and is probably...
Yes, by seeing through, exposing, and defeating Daenerys. You are idle.
Most psychotic. Just the things that she does, and we're supposed...
Sansa is the most psychotic. Not Ramsay, not Joffrey, not the Mountain, not Walder Frey, not Cresta, not Tywin, not Littlefinger, not the Mad King, not all those slavers in Essos, not Khal Drogo. No. It's Sansa. And of course it's not Daenerys, the biggest psychopath, the biggest tyrant in the whole story.
Just to applaud her, or in Arya's words, say she's the smartest character in the show. No, she's done nothing to earn becoming Queen of the North in the same vein that she's not
Instead, saving the North twice in Season 8. First from the White Walkers and then from the Daenerys.
earned overcoming Littlefinger. That was all Bran. Sansa just handed things.
No, Arya and Sansa both defeated Littlefinger individually. Bran just confirmed their suspicions.
For no reason. We have Arya going west of Westeros, which, again, is not a terrible idea, but there was really no foreshadowing and no build-up to her wanting...
Except her traveling and exploring the world, almost the entire show, her outright stating her question of what's going on west of Westeros 2 seasons prior. Of course, nothing counts.
Do that, especially when she just reunited with her family, which has been her end goal since...
To quote Arya, "It's alright. I don't need many allies. Arya is a loner. She's a lone wolf. She can get fine on her own. She can visit her family, that's fine, but she wants to be her own. And she can't do that at Winterfell."
Basically, season 2. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You have the small council, which is just insanely stupid, with... You got Bronn, who's now in charge of Highgarden. You've got...
I love this scene because it is insulting their haters so much.
Samwell, who I guess is now the Grand Maester, when he didn't even forge a chain at Old Town, so I don't think they would take very kindly to that.
No, my headcanon, it's not explaining the story itself, is that Archmaester Abus joined Sam. He is at King's Landing continuing his teachings as a remedy for not believing in the dead, in the White Walkers. And probably, maybe if he doesn't believe in dead, they were very suspicious of the White Walker threat, the Maesters, but there's like this book theory how the Maesters hate magic and dragons, so it would make sense, right? As a remedy, Archmaester Abus is at King's Landing, continuing the instructions for Sam, because he was part of both defeating the White Walkers and Daenerys with her dragons.
You've got Tyrion, who's not even mentioned in this book. That's A Song of Ice and Fire. What a disrespectful thing to George R.R. Martin's legacy. Putting that book in...
No, not to George R.R. Martin's legacy, to Tyrion's legacy.
Saying, oh, Game of Thrones, that is A Song of Ice and Fire. No. Also, how would Tyrion not be in it? He was literally the person that killed Tywin Lannister at the hand of the king. He also was the person that allegedly killed Joffrey, and he was the person in charge of King's Landing when Stannis attacked the castle. It is just so...
That's a fair point. It wasn't properly explained, and they could have shown some texts like they did with what Brienne. They showed what Brienne was writing in the White Book for Jaime, and they could have showed something. But I guess it could work. It can definitely work. Sam is only saying you are not mentioned. It could also mean he's just not mentioned by name. Maybe Archmaester Abus hates him for some reason and just names him the imp, the monkey, the demon, the monster. Or something like that. Or maybe, just like Fire and Blood, there are wrong sources. For example, all the glory, all the rewards for the defense of King's Landing in Season 2 would be going to Tywin and the Tyrells, not to Tyrion. We saw how he was wrapped under the rug, how he didn't receive any appreciation. Also, killing Joffrey could also be told like, how could that be told? For not blaming Tyrion directly. Maybe because afterwards, maybe Jaime told them, maybe Jaime told someone what Olenna was telling him, or maybe just someone else was blamed. Maybe even the Maester didn't even want to give Tyrion the blame, and he blamed, I don't know, Oberyn or Tywin himself who poisoned Joffrey. Like, there are always false rumors, fake gossip, fake leaks. It wouldn't be shocking if that was the case here as well.
Unbelievably stupid, but that is how Season 8 ends. So with that being the general plot of Season 8, nothing makes sense. Everything is terrible. There's like, I can count on my hand the amount of decent scenes in Season 8. And most of them happen in the first 2 episodes. So at this point, let's quickly dive through some of the characters. Jon Snow, to me, like I've said through both my season 7 and 6 reviews, he basically stops being a character by the time you get to
he stops being the character you want him to be.
episode 6 or 7 of season 6. He just doesn't really have any progression. There's nothing to the character anymore. Like I kind of joked.
No progression except coming back to life, retaking Winterfell, becoming king in the north, making an alliance with the most powerful force in the world with Daenerys. That doesn't count.
Yeah, in the intro to this video, he just says the same 5 lines on repeat that he doesn't want to become king, and
just like haters always use the same lines: rushed, bad writing, Star Wars, that's it.
Doesn't want all this stuff. He doesn't have a character arc whatsoever throughout the season. He's just one note like he's been for basically the past 3 years.
Except we see Jon at his lowest point, despite him being home, despite him being in love with the love of his life. His parentage, the revelation who he really is not a blessing for him, it's a burden. It's destroying his life. You can get this, you can see the story, you can see the character, but you don't want to.
Seasons, I don't have much to say about him because he's not really much of a character. Does he have a kind of bittersweet ending for him? Yeah, I'd say it's actually a happy ending for Jon in terms of
bittersweet. Killing Daenerys is not a happy ending for Jon.
He's always wanted to live free. We even saw hints of it with him and Ygritte of living kind of like how the wildlings do. So again, that doesn't even really feel like a punishment. And overall, I just don't have much to say about the character. Moving to our next main character, Daenerys. I have a lot to say about Daenerys.
I believe you.
I think this season, the way it depicts her,
this was both Daenerys Targaryen's best season and Emilia Clarke's best season.
It's insulting to anyone that's ever had any mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, grief. To me, it is insulting. The way that they depict
I believe you.
that on this show, that is what tips over Daenerys to...
He's now basically advocating for censorship. You can't talk about risky, touchy, and hard to swallow topics. Don't discuss them, don't illustrate them, don't display them at all. It needs to be uncomfortable and safe, and no one needs to be hurt by it. Yeah, that's not how great masterpieces or pieces of art in general are born or made or appreciated. That's cowardly, that's pathetic, that's sad, that's the death of creativity and freedom and for the vision of the artists.
Basically start mass murdering people. That because she loses people in her life and she might be feeling depression and anxiety, that is the justification, and that is supposed to be an accurate representation.
No, those are the circumstances that break Daenerys even further in. But those are not the reasons why she burned King's Landing.
Of mental health, pushing her to the edge of killing all these people. And I totally can understand the idea of Daenerys, where she's mentally not all there because of the situations that have happened in the previous episodes that don't make any sense, by the way, that she shouldn't be in control of a dragon. I totally get that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think what they should have done...
She shouldn't be in power at all, even without a dragon.
Which would have been way more compelling, is have Daenerys, when the surrender is happening, continue the battle, but not in the way that she does. Her going after Cersei, and because she does that, it leads to innocent people dying. So she goes for the Red Keep, she goes for Cersei, and maybe that...
Again, another fan fiction rewrite in order to keep Daenerys' vests clean and white, while at the same time sacrificing their character's integrity, sacrificing her tragic, her moral dilemma, sacrificing her deepness and power that this character has like no other, by reducing the biggest crime in the story, the most difficult choice any character had to make in any story, by returning it to an oopsie, to an innocent, to an accident, or just justifying it, or lowering the scale, because somehow killing 5,000 innocents around or inside the Red Keep is somehow better or less unforgivable than killing 1,000,000 people. It only makes a difference in statistics. It makes no difference morally. Daenerys is a murderer. She's a dictator. She's a mass murderer. She shows no willing to compromise or to show mercy. Because you can only show mercy to people where you think they have wronged you, where they don't deserve your mercy. Only then you can show mercy. And Daenerys doesn't do that.
Causes because of the flame, wildfire caches to go off in the city, and that unintentionally.
Yeah, again, he's like reducing the biggest moment in the story, the climax of the story, to an accident. That's pathetic and cowardly storytelling. We saw it in Disney. We saw it in Doctor Strange 2 with Wanda. Was it a good movie? It was fine, but nothing more. Certainly not a masterpiece.
Kills innocent people. And so Daenerys was never planning, that was never her intention. The one person.
It was. In Season 8, Episode 4, she is saying, speaking to Cersei will not prevent a slaughter. But perhaps it's good. The people see Daenerys Stormborn made every effort to avoid bloodshed, and Cersei Lannister refused. They should know whom to blame when the sky falls down upon them. This was before Missandei's death. This was before Jon's betrayal, before Tyrion's betrayal, before Varys' betrayal, before Jaime's betrayal. Before she actively was on top of the battlements of King's Landing and saw the people in fear of her instead of crying in joy for their savior's arrival and loving her, celebrating her. This was all before that. Daenerys made up her mind long ago, and you missed it.
She wanted to die, or I guess two, would be the Mountain and then also Cersei. But by doing that, that set off a chain reaction of events that got innocent people killed and make other people question her judgment, question her ability to make decisions while being in a state of mental turmoil or emotional turmoil. That is compelling writing. It could lead to some interesting content.
It's cowardly writing, done 1,000,000 times before. X-Men, Doctor Strange, Attack on Titan, everywhere else. Everything else when the protagonist turned into the biggest threat, there were always excuses or cushions and pillows reserved for the fans and followers of these characters to not feel so bad for following a tyrant, a monster, but GOT denied you that luxury. There are no excuses, no rationalizations, no reason behind her slaughter, behind her action, because her crime is not supposed to be justifiable. It's supposed to be horrible. That's the whole point of it.
Conversations that she's being perceived as mad, but we know Daenerys as a character is not actually mad. And that perception...
That's true. That's like one of the only few things what he has said thus far, which is true. She never went mad.
Very damaging. It's something I predicted in the books. It will be definitely a big part of Daenerys and her coming over. But here, it's just used as, oh, Daenerys is kind of sad, so she just loses control and goes mad and starts killing a bunch of people, and she starts thinking about conquering the entire world and mass murder to the extent that is horrifying given, what we've seen in real life with things in the past in our own history. Daenerys would be 5 times worse given she is a dragon and nobody else can stop her. It is horrifying how poorly they wrote this character. And Daenerys was never a favorite character of mine in the show.
That's interesting. So you were not even a Daenerys worshipper, but you still felt for her propaganda. High five. That's me. I didn't understand Daenerys initially either. I also fell for her propaganda, and her actions shocked me. I was devastated. This was the most shocking episode, the most shocking thing I've ever seen. That's why it's so powerful, because it moves me, because it teaches me something that I didn't know before, because it knew things better than me. The only difference between us, I am able to admit defeat, to self-reflect, to admit, yes, you got me, I fell for Daenerys propaganda, I didn't see all the signs, I didn't care, because wasn't a big Daenerys fan either. I wasn't one of those who were like, oh, she has to rule at the end, she has to win the throne. No, That wasn't me. I didn't care about it. I liked her character. She was great, but that's it. She wasn't my favorite character. And I was still fooled by her. That's how powerful she was. She was such a powerful lie.
She's not a favorite character of mine in the books either. I think I'm more middle of the pack on her. I like her, but I don't think she's like the best character or the worst character. But what they did to her character in this show was insulting, especially for people that loved the character. Daenerys is still to this day one of the most popular.
How dare you tell brave and daring storytelling? How dare you? How dare you? How did Game of Thrones become popular and a worldwide phenomenon? By not going the popular way. By destroying its fans. By doing the unthinkable. Its biggest milestones. The biggest milestones in Game of Thrones are all horrible events. And Daenerys' crime was the biggest of them all.
Popular characters ever put to screen, and what they did to her and Emilia Clarke, who did her best acting, I think, of the entire series in season 8. It was just...
That we can agree on.
I don't even know how to explain what they did to her. Was just terrible. And so Daenerys' final arc was so bad that basically people instantly wanted to rewrite the show. I don't even know what to say. That just kind of explains it. Moving on to some more of our core characters. Like I said with Bran, I'm not going to talk about too much. He's just a character that has no personality. He has no character arc. His powers do not mean anything. He does nothing all season outside of show up at King's Landing and say, "Why do you think I came all this way?" He is a terrible character that really had started in season 7, but just continued to progress in season 8. And I really don't have much to say about Bran because he's a boring and bland character, especially in the later seasons.
And I can't say much to that either because you're not making any objectively based claims. You are just proposing or imposing your opinion. It's boring, it's bad. Okay, that's subjective. That's the subjective review. You don't like it. You think it's bad. But is it actually bad? Does not make sense? You don't tackle those points. You don't try to understand Game of Thrones objectively. So there's that.
Sansa is a character that I basically hate so much after like season 5. Like season 5, her character is assassinated, but like she's a character that I don't actively hate.
Season 5 was her best season up to this point.
Until season 6. She's a character that we're supposed to like root for and say that she knows everything. She's so smart. And D&D does what they do throughout the entire season, through season 7, season 6 at times, season 5, is they do a lot of tell, don't show. So we're never seeing...
They do both actually. They have characters like leaning us towards that conclusion how smart Sansa is, but they also show it to us. Like I said, she saw through Daenerys, she exposed her and defeated her, she saved the realm, the North, twice. She defeated Littlefinger, she defeated Ramsay and took Winterfell over. Like if Sansa is a bad and fair character, then what is someone like Robb Stark? Or Ned Stark, who didn't accomplish anything?
Sansa making these really great, smart decisions, it's always D&D telling us that she is making those decisions. That Arya is telling Jon that she's so smart and intelligent, while at the same time, last season, Littlefinger played Sansa like a fiddle, and Arya as well.
I'm not going over this again. Or am I? No, I don't care. I don't care about that point that much. To destroy him here as well.
The thing that saved them was Bran. So how do we get to this point where Arya thinks Sansa's so intelligent? We also then apparently have, for instance, Sansa talking down on other characters like Tyrion when she also is stupid as hell. So Sansa is a character that makes no sense. Her becoming Queen of the North is laughably bad given the context of all of her decisions she's made throughout the previous seasons and this season as well. Her conflict with Daenerys is so artificial, it's actually laughable in my opinion.
He's basically just repeating himself now all the time.
Off is so like defensive.
Already tackled those points at the beginning.
And she doesn't like Daenerys, and all of this stems from the idea that she wants the North to be free and independent, and she sees that Jon is more in love or lusting after Daenerys, and that has maybe clouded his vision. But that's putting aside
This also clouded your vision.
the fact that without the dragons, without Daenerys, the North would have all been massacred and killed. And so
No, Sansa recognizes that in episode 4. She says, I will never forget them for it. But this is not enough to swear blind fealty towards a tyrant. She is thankful Daenerys for supporting the North in defeating the dead, but it doesn't mean that's not enough for her to bend the knee for Daenerys. It's like the scene in Slumdog Millionaire where this one guy saves this woman and then expects this girl to have sex with him. This is basically what Daenerys is expecting of the North and what Grease Goblin is now advocating for.
Sansa not seeing that just tells you how short-sighted and stupid she is. She doesn't understand that, hey, we actually need Daenerys. Maybe don't be hostile to the person that, at the very least, your brother is happy with. You're not really your brother, but like...
Yeah, that's a flaw in Sansa. She's very hot-headed and short-sighted in that regard. But again, that's a great flawed human character, not a cut out, I don't know, robot who knows every move, who is perfect and makes no mistakes.
Your half-brother, but not actually your half-brother. You get the point. That this person you care about is very happy with. Sansa is so incredibly unlikable in this season and in prior seasons that I just think you guys kind of get my thoughts on the character. Arya is another character that, to me, there's not a whole lot to talk about. She doesn't have much of a character arc in the later seasons, and the only one you can point to in this season is in episode 5, that last scene with the Hound, where he tries to point her in a different direction, but it's, in my opinion, too little, too late. Arya at this point is just a kind of awkward, odd character. Like, for instance, she's uttering lines like, she's seen death before, it has many faces. It's just...
Because she has.
So cringe. And overall, I don't have much to say about Arya because her ending isn't really that satisfying or a payoff to what we've seen throughout the character through the last few seasons. She overall doesn't have much growth in this season, and so she's just kind of a one-note, again, boring mess of a character. Moving on, we have some of the Lannister characters. Jaime, I think, is the biggest one, because like I said at the end of my Season 7 retrospective, Jaime was in a perfect spot for his character to end. He had broken away from...
Yeah, again, people already made up their mind what Guillotine was about at the end of Season 7. That was already set in stone, their interpretation of the story. They were not open for any new kind of insight, any new information regarding these characters, to have their views changed. They were not open.
Cersei, he had completed that arc from the previous seasons and saw Cersei for what she truly was. And now he's coming to fight for the living against even, the threat of his sister killing him or whatnot. He's come here to fight and support the living. And that is a perfect time for him to basically die. His role in the story is over. Let him have this heroic sacrifice or death. Maybe he dies.
Again, imposing his own fan fiction onto the story, acting like that's superior. That's how they should have done, because he understood the story and characters better. His interpretation of the story is right, but the writers, the real showrunners, they got it wrong.
Is protecting Brienne as she's about to die or something. Let him have that heroic moment and die. His relevance in the story, for the most part, is...
Just like Theon, Melisandre, the Hound, Daenerys, give everyone the same death. Because that's great storytelling.
Over. Now, you can say he still has relevance with Cersei and her outcome. I would disagree, given the fact that I just feel like that...
Yeah, because you reject the actual story Guillotine is about.
Storyline was over. They already had their goodbye, and that storyline was wrapped up, I would say, pretty nicely in Season 7. But with Season 8, we have to revert that. So Brienne and Jaime sleep together. It feels like...
He fails to see that Jaime leaving Cersei at the end of Season 7 is just set up for his return in Season 8. They meet again, reunite in Season 8 at the exact same spot where he left her, with the same music as back then. It's full circle, it's his climax. His true inner conflict is about Cersei. No, that's not why. Like, he's deep and complex character. He has both his honor to care about and his love for Cersei. And he was not just gonna die against the undead, because that's not what his climax of the story was supposed to be.
It's the beginning of that relationship, but then all of a sudden, Jaime basically is like, nah, this was a one-night stand. I'm gonna hit it and quit it. He's gonna run back to Cersei, and he's gonna try to save her. And then we even get this horrible, horrible line where he's talking with Tyrion, because he actually gets caught trying to go to...
He never cared about innocent or otherwise. And you never cared about understanding Game of Thrones either, or reading between the lines, or trying to understand a character and taking every line, every word literally without trying to understand the true purpose of it. It's so... Like, how can you be so unwilling to see the slightest bit of reason?
King's Landing, where he says that he never cared about the people.
Because he never did. He cared about doing the right thing, doing the honorable thing, being a good knight, but he never cared about random people he doesn't know, and he for surely never put them above his family, especially Cersei.
Anyway, he didn't care about the people that he saved during...
And also, of course, he fails to recognize that Jaime, despite this line, still agrees with Tyrion to ring the bells, to try to ring the bells to save the city. And we see him eyeing the bells in the episodes. He tried it off screen. We don't know whether he actually did it. Maybe the people or someone else rang them. We don't get confirmation on that. It's left ambiguous, but he tried. He made the effort. And he failed. He failed. Another tragic character. Great storytelling. No happy Disney fairy tale ending that you would have preferred.
The sack of King's Landing. It is just crazy how in one line they completely destroyed any semblance of a character arc that Jaime had. Jaime, it was all about understanding this complex individual who I would say in the show is much more of a hero than he is in the book. In the book, he's much more...
That's true.
...nuanced because we're in his head. We know the things he's thinking, the horrible...
That's not true. It's not more nuanced. That's not. He's framed more heroic in the show, that's true, but he's not really more nuanced. Because he still has the kind of a dick side to him still in the show. They are still very much true to it.
Thoughts he has and some of his good and bad qualities. With that line, they completely discounted his entire growth in the entire show. And they're trying to go for this like, oh, well, Jaime, sometimes you can't escape from the bad parts of your life. You can't escape, the trauma and the things that he went through with Cersei, and so he comes running back to it. It's just executed so poorly, and it completely destroys his character. Tyrion is a character that I really don't feel like there's much to talk about, because if you're actually going from a continuity standpoint, he's actually pretty similar to the way he is in season 6 and 7, where he's just a dumb idiot. He gives bad advice every turn. Basically, if he gives you advice, you should just take the opposite. He makes absolutely no sense throughout the entire season, like he hasn't in the previous seasons either. So there's not a lot to talk about to me.
He's not as conflicted in the other seasons as he is in season 7 and 8, where he wants to accomplish two goals. Both make Daenerys queen, while at the same time trying to spare the life of his siblings, Cersei and Jaime. And that's no easy task, if you know Cersei and Daenerys. He had the hardest job out of any character in the entire show. He went from a drunk, whoremongering fool like Robert Baratheon in the first season to a conflicted, honor and duty and loyalty bound character like Ned Stark. Ned Stark was stuck between a rock and a hard place, between Cersei and the king. And now Tyrion is stuck between a rock and a hard place, between Daenerys and Cersei. And afterwards, he is stuck between Daenerys and the true king.
Tyrion. Cersei's a character I told you guys from season 7 that Basically, she stopped functioning after the third episode of season 7 when she has that moment of how she kills Tyene in front of Ilaria, or basically the alleged idea that eventually she's going to die. Season 8, Cersei has no agency. She just kind of sits by. She drinks her wine. She's manipulating Euron, saying that this is, their baby together when it's not. And she just dies to bricks.
So she's drinking wine, scheming, manipulating, and lying. So what Cersei has always done in the entire show.
I don't know what else to say. Cersei, one of the best characters of the entire show, who is the MVP of the later seasons of the show, goes out with a whimper. And so there is the Lannister kids. Again, I would say Theon, to me, is one of the only characters of this season that has any type of a good semblance of writing and or arc. And there is some problems with it, don't get me wrong, with him, somehow getting Asha, aka Yara, in the show. And I'm not going to explain this over and over again, but Yara was named Yara because she's a pirate coming from the Iron Islands, and Yara is derived from Yar. So
no, they did it because they already had a character introduced in season 1 named Asha, and they didn't want viewers to be confused by those similar names. To have an Asha and Asha in the same show, who are also both look very similar and are part of the same storyline, Winterfell and Theon. So it was a wise choice. Who cares how a character is called? If Tyrion is called Tywin or Tywin, it doesn't matter. This is so superficial, this is so ridiculous. This is now really reaching for straws to have anything to complain about.
Perfect writing, I guess. I think Theon's arc is overall fairly decent in this season of, him finally getting that acceptance from Bran of being a good man, sacrificing himself for Bran and the history that he's had with him going back to season 2. I think overall he was handled, for the most part, pretty well. Other characters in Daenerys' Spear just were not good. Grey Worm's arc is not very good. He becomes a character that's fairly...
Beautiful ending for Grey Worm. And one of the biggest twists or surprises that season 8 hit me with, because I didn't expect Grey Worm to have such an integral and important role at all at the end. To have such a key point of view and importance towards the end. I never expected it. He was also on my death predictions for the Winterfell battle, and that's it. And basically, Grey Worm has been, I watched Thrones live ever since after season 3. He was basically, starting from season 5, he was on every or almost every or most death predictions lists or videos for the show. Season 5, 6, 7, 8. He was on every death prediction. And he turns out to be so important. Great twist. Never saw it coming. Bravo D&D.
One note by the end of the season. And another thing I kind of skipped over or glossed over is Missandei's death, because she gets captured when Euron does his attack on Daenerys' forces on this fleet for the third time. And somehow Missandei gets captured, but not Varys, Tyrion, Grey Worm, nobody else of importance. Missandei gets killed. It's used to try and make Daenerys go mad, makes sense, but it just doesn't make any sense. And let's go back to Daenerys for a second. I talked about why Daenerys going mad doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but even the justification the show tries to use...
Now is he actually daring to use the actual story, to face the actual story of Game of Thrones and Daenerys' character? He's not just bringing in his own fanfiction. He's not talking in exaggerations and empty claims. Is he now actually attacking what the story tried to say? Is he now doing it? Please do it for the first time in this video after 2 hours.
Is the idea that, Daenerys has had these past acts of violence, and so it's not all that unheard of that she would go mad. For instance, she killed her brother very brutally. Oh, wait, that was actually the guy that was abusing her and just threatened to kill her child. Guess we forgot about that. Then she killed the slavers. Let's think about why she killed the slavers and what would have caused her to do something like that. Oh, right. The slavers were actively killing children and hanging them up as signs for Daenerys.
Yes, and it shows that Daenerys is just as bad as the slavers. She has no moral high ground. She just replaced one tyranny with another.
And her forces as they were heading to the city. Yeah, you can understand why she killed those people.
Also, random innocent people among them as well. Did you kind of forget about Hista's father, who even spoke out against those child murders? But Daenerys doesn't care. She's a goddess striking justice left and right. She only cares about a swift judgment to make her feel good and righteous and powerful. She doesn't care about fair trials to figure out who was responsible for it and who needs to pay for it, for the crime of killing innocent children. No, she just killed the first 163 slave masters she found. No matter whether they were innocent or part of the act or in favor of it, no, she doesn't care about it. Which also illustrates Daenerys' justice is no real justice. Her law is not justice. It's arbitrary, it's cruel, and it's no improvement over the status quo. It's just continuing the wheel.
Now, should she have killed all of them? No. I mean, that's something that...
What all of them? He just picked the same amount. There's no rule that says this. The same amount of slave masters as the amount of children that were crucified. 163. Random masters. Not all 163.
Again, some of these people did not have a hand in killing these children. And even after that action, Daenerys does reflect on that action and go, yeah, that wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, she kind of feels bad. That's it. And season 8, her character has developed to that state that she doesn't feel bad about her crimes anymore.
I might have made a mistake there. So the idea that Daenerys...
Oh, oopsie. I just committed mass murder.
This is this person that's cool with killing people for no reason, and that she's this mad queen, makes no sense. Even if you want to go to season 6, where she kills the other slavers. Okay, they had just tried to take her city, enslave her people, and threatened her to her face. What was she supposed to do? Oh, she killed the Tarleys. The Tarleys openly went against her, lost the battle, then refused to bend the knee. The penalty for that usually is death.
No. Robert Baratheon didn't kill Elsa Thorne. He didn't kill Randall Tarly. He didn't kill Barris and Selmy, who were all fighting for the enemy's side. Barris didn't bend the knee, yeah, that's true. That's what saved him. But Thorne didn't. He accepted the wall. Well, he kinda did. At least my point is, Robert shows mercy. He gives people the option to bend the knee or just leave his side to serve his realm in other places. That's what he did. Daenerys denies the Tarlys that same luxury. She doesn't give them the freedom to choose their own fate. She just kills them. Bend the knee to me or die, that's no real choice. And you never noticed it. He also spared Randall Tarly as well, as you might have noticed. Daenerys didn't. She can't, because she's unwilling to compromise and show mercy.
It's not a Daenerys exclusive thing. That's just normally how these things work out.
Yes, and that's already defying Daenerys' propaganda, that she's just as horrible as the status quo, as the usual system, and she's not going to improve the world. She's just leading the world with her on top instead of anyone else. That's it. That's the key message behind it.
So, the fact that Daenerys becomes mad based off these loose ideas makes no sense.
Like I said, she never went mad.
But, yeah. I think some of other minor characters like Brienne, Davos, they have some decent moments, albeit...
Decent? I thought Brienne had the best scene in the entire season. What are you telling me? Is it now decent, or is it the best? Or is decent just already the best? Is decent enough for praise? Is this all it takes to impress you? Mr. Greasy's Goblin, make up your mind. Was it a great scene, or was it just decent?
By the end of the season, they still don't make a whole lot of sense. Euron is still one of the worst characters of the show. Not much more really to say there overall.
Well, at least we have to wait and see whether Book Euron will be able to live up to Show Euron. After all, Show Euron killed a full-grown dragon, he killed Jaime Lannister, he killed 2 Sand Snakes, and he fucked the Queen. We have to see whether Book Euron will be able to live up to that. Whether he will be able to do as much damage and have as much impact on the story as him in the show.
And overall, I think that's all the characters I really wanted to talk about. If I missed something, if there's something I specifically didn't talk about, it's probably because that thing was just bad. There's so much you can talk about.
But really, like everything you talked about in this video was supposedly bad. Everything.
You can go scene by scene in this show, and there's probably something bad that you can find. And that's just Season 8 in a nutshell.
Where's darkness, there's also light. And like I said, your intentions are important. Do you just want to focus on darkness? Do you only want to see in the dark? Do you only want to see darkness? Or do you want to experience light as well? It's your choice.
There isn't much to be positive about. There's not much to say anything good about. There's a reason I did that intro the way I did. And I think
for clickbait.
Season 8 has done to this community, what it has done to A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones as a whole, is it's basically made the universe, in a way, a joke. Game of Thrones could have been one of the greatest shows of all time.
House of the Dragon was the biggest series, or had the biggest series for me in HBO history. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms was also a huge success. The Game of Thrones studio tour, I think last year had an increase of 26% in visitors. Yeah. So it's rising. The interest, the love for Game of Thrones over the years has been rising. It has been steady and it's rising. It's not falling down. It's rising. And the more people who get exposed to Game of Thrones in their own way, who are not part of a hateful bubble 7 years ago, tend to be more open and favorable of the final season, or the final seasons, or the second half of the entire show entirely. It wasn't a joke. My humble opinion, most of the popular fan theories and predictions were a bad joke. Not everything, but most. And you just don't like Season 8 because it didn't repeat those jokes.
And it ends on a whimper. It ends as the probably worst finale, worst season of all time. Now when you say, oh, Game of Thrones, you mean that show that ended terribly? It has stained the legacy of this series forever, because if Game of Thrones had ended in somewhat of a satisfying way, when you have shows like House of the Dragon, A Knight of the Seven...
Game of Thrones was never about satisfying the masses. It was about to elevate them, to teach them something, to shock them, to reveal something about ourselves. It's too deep for you. I'm not mad at you, but that's the truth.
Kingdoms, they had an opportunity to capitalize off of Game of Thrones. Those shows are doing really well still in terms of viewership, but they'll never...
They are doing better than the Breaking Bad spin-off Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad had a universally beloved ending where almost everyone is fine with it. Well deservedly so, because Breaking Bad mastered fan service to perfection. But why isn't its spin-off as successful as House of the Dragon or A Knight of the Seven Kingdom? Because overall Breaking Bad wasn't as powerful as Game of Thrones. Season 8 is better than Season 5 of Breaking Bad. And it's better than every single season of Better Call Saul as the entire show.
Reach the heights of Game of Thrones.
Also because I can appreciate both stories because they have totally opposite goals. Breaking Bad wanted to please the fans, it wanted to be fan service safe and using traditional and established storytelling, Game of Thrones wanted to break that. It wanted to go beyond that. Not only storytelling traditions as and on itself, but also the medium of TV. Game of Thrones, the first show that was compared to the Lord of the Rings movies, who changed the entire TV landscape, who made it possible that we have such big budget TV shows in the first place. Game of Thrones was a pioneer. It made something possible that was unthinkable 16 years ago, and made it the get-to. Every other show since then tries to be the next Game of Thrones. Every other big studio or storyteller is using a fantasy book series to replicate the success of Game of Thrones. And they didn't get it either. Game of Thrones didn't become the most popular and powerful story in the world because it's fantasy. It became the most popular and powerful story in the world despite it was fantasy. Because of his story, because of its story and characters. Not only because of his setting, but because of everything in it. And those people don't know that, and you surely don't either.
Game of Thrones was a global phenomenon, and yes,
It still is. Look at House of the Dragon, look at A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
shows are doing well, they'll never reach that. If Game of Thrones had been good,
Also, every Game of Thrones copycat fantasy series is also not reaching that. So what is your standard? Like, what show has reached Game of Thrones' level of importance and relevance and love? What? Nothing. Golden Age of TV ended the day Game of Thrones ended.
in its ending, it wouldn't have burnt a lot of bridges. Game of Thrones destroyed a lot of the community. Not a lot, but it definitely destroyed a lot more of the people.
Miguel Sapochnik, who broke out, became a big star because of his directing in Game of Thrones, went on to become semi-showrunner for House of the Dragon. Like, what burnt bridges are you talking about?
That were watching these shows.
D&D are very popular, and not popular, but they are very successful with the new show on Netflix, Free Body Problem. George R. R. Martin is still very successful in doing nothing and earning all the cash from D&D's hard work, whereas the bridge burned there.
Maybe they were getting into the books, and after season 8, they ceased caring about this world. And
just like you.
It's another thing because when you have these books, and as of right now, it doesn't appear we'll ever see a finish to this story. The show, if it had ended in a satisfying way, it could have served as an ending to these books that people had been waiting years to see the ending that they'll probably never see. And so for a lot of people, if you're even a book fan and you're watching the show and you go, well, not only is the show, terrible in the way it finishes that story, I also don't really have the books to rely on either because they're likely not going to get an ending as well. And so when you look at the idea,
the show has an ending
of will the A Song of Ice and Fire community ever have this resurgence? Will it ever get to the point where it's not declining? I think season 8 has a lot to do with it. And I think it's a very important thing to talk about with.
Yeah, season 8 is their scapegoat basically. Because they don't get what they want. A finished story by the original author in the initial source medium, the books. And they all get all their frustration and anger out on D&D instead.
How it has affected the media around the books and also the show. And I know for a fact that there are still communities for both the show and the book, but let's be fair. I think there's a lot more of a bigger community for the shows than there are for the books. The books are declining in viewership overall, whereas, like I've done these show videos specifically focused on just the show, not the books, the show has a larger following because of how many people were passionate about.
Yeah, this is the only reason we're still making videos like that.
TV show at one point, and now that's turned. And House of the Dragon might be on the same trajectory. Who knows? But that is my season 8 video. It is a season of poor writing, of basically all the foreshadowing that season 5, 6, and 7 gave us that season 8 was going to be terrible coming to fruition.
And that's not a foreshadowing. That's just confirmation bias. You didn't like those seasons already, so you expect this season to be bad as well. By that logic, I should have hated season 4 and 5 of The Boys as well, because season 3 wasn't the best for me, but season 4 and 5 was so much better.
It was terrible.
Because I was able to go and lower my expectations, go in with the right mindset, don't expect the best, and I was pleasantly surprised how good this works. You should try it once. Be open, be unbiased, take the story for what it is, and try to understand and appreciate it instead of judging it.
Dialogue, it was fast pacing as D&D didn't care about this show anymore and were trying to go to the next Star Wars project, which ironically, because
the longest one-on-one conversation in the entire series is in the series finale.
They did this show so badly it never actually happened.
Instead, they got a better Netflix deal.
It's a depressing thing to talk about, albeit I enjoyed making this video.
Yeah, but you like the money you get from it, so you're still talking about it. And I guess you will make another unreflective reflection video in the next 10 years. Probably even sooner. Because, yeah, you need some money. Yeah, I know.
Even if this is the second recording of this video, I do like making these videos a lot. It's a nice just reflection of going back into our history of the shows we've gotten. And
so I just stopped the video. I'm not sure how long it keeps going, but we have seen the most important bits of it. So, you were having a conversation with a season 8 lover. I invite you to have a conversation with me. Not a season 8 lover in a sense like in your conversation where he agreed with every hater talking point. No, with a real lover who understood the story and the characters. I invite you, Discord, we can make a discussion about the ending of Game of Thrones. I lay the cards open on the table. You know my stance. After this video, 2 hours, you know my stance. You probably won't even watch like 10 minutes of it, let's be real. But I give you the opportunity, you can do it. Watch my video. You know my talking points. You can prepare. You know what I'm gonna say. You know what my opinions and stances are regarding the story and characters of Game of Thrones. Let's do it. Let's do not a season 8 conversation, but a real discussion, a real debate, where two real opposing sides face off to one another. You can even do it with your friend, the other guy, who was also, because your initial conversation video with the season 8 fan was already a handicap match of 2 versus 1. You can also do it. Invite him as well. We can do 2 against 1. But please you don't need to invite the other guy, because I'm afraid then there's opposite season 8 fan, because then I'm afraid it will turn into a 3-on-1 handicap match, and that's too much. Like, that's too unfair. Even for me, I have no interest in doing that. Fighting against too much, having too much handicap pitted against me, you know? If you're a real man, you can just do the discussion with me. I already wrote you in the Discord. We can talk civilly, in a civil manner, nice, kind, no insults, just talking about it. And trying to convince the other of one's own opinion, bringing up each other's points and tearing the other points down. That's what a discussion is, not a conversation. We can do it. I would gladly do it. See ya then.